Ever browsed the internet so much that every video, every forum, and every chat just starts to blur together, leaving you bored out of your mind? What if I told you there's a much darker side of the web, one that'll keep you on edge and might even leave you scarred for life? In this episode, we are sharing 5 horror stories from the dark web found on Reddit. So get comfy, settle in, and enjoy. If you like the stories, please subscribe for more. The first time I heard about the dark web, I was in high school. The very idea of a secretive network within the internet seemed very inviting to the 13-year-old me. I've always had a knack for computer science, so when I first heard about it, it was only logical for me to seek it out. But that was 20 years ago, and the internet was still very primitive. Resources for self-tutoring were also limited, and therefore, no matter how tempting it was for me to discover this trove of hidden treasures, it took me a while to figure out. I remember the first time I went online on Thor, almost giddy from excitement of exploring the unknown. I navigated to the hidden wiki page with its extensive link catalog. I visited some online gun and drug stores and called it a day. Exciting, but nothing out of the ordinary. But things got messy the next time I opened Thor. I came upon an anonymous chat site that anyone could use by signing up. The guys there seemed really nice. I told them I was new to the whole Tor thing, and they took their time to explain to me the basics and how everything worked around the network. "Take it easy," one of them typed back. "So what are you looking for?" "I've been hearing stories about the dark web, so I came to check out what the deal was. But it's all pretty mellow," I responded. "I guess I was expecting some surprises, but drugs and guns are all that's here." I had given my honest opinion. "You're a nice chap. If you like surprises, follow this link," he then typed, and he signed out. The link took me to a private forum, sort of like Reddit, but more basic. The first thread was an extensive discussion on how to make drugs from locally available substances. It also talked about different other unconventional types of highs, like injecting oneself with a mixture of Dettol and ground sugar. A user reported that the high was so potent, 12 hours later, he was still reeling. Another gross thread discussed stuff with pets. I had been looking around for a couple of hours when I came across an innocuous-looking link sitting quietly at the comments section, with the subject line NSFW. At this point, I had already seen very weird stuff, so there wasn't really much that could surprise me. Or so I thought. The link took me to a video feed of a girl sitting in a chair with a countdown clock running at 11 minutes to 0. The girl looked sleepy, possibly drugged, as she looked right at the camera, eyes half open. I had no idea what was going on. The website was minimalist, just a comment bar, and no other frills. I tried typing something, but the website told me that I was a guest, and to leave a comment I had to sign up and pay about $50. 5 minutes to 0, a man entered the room and started hustling furniture around. The comments section suddenly fired up. There were about 50 other users signed in, and they were all leaving obscene comments. The man came near the monitor, seemed to read something from it, smirked, and went back. It suddenly dawned on me that perhaps this was a live feed. As the countdown clock counted down to 0, Beethoven's Ode to Joy began to play in the background. The man came back on screen, this time with a Swiss Army knife. The comments section, in the meantime, was bustling with perverse comments. "Tear her shirt down," somebody wrote. And in a moment I saw the man slash through the girl's shirt, making her partially topless. "Spit down her throat," someone else wrote. And the man did it. Suddenly, the reality of the situation hit me. There was this girl who was being tortured live for the viewing pleasure of a bunch of sick human beings. I almost felt like throwing up. "Hit her ribs with the bat," was the next request. I watched in horror as the man pulled out a baseball bat from underneath the table, swinging it for her right chest and toppling her over by sheer force of the hit. A chill ran through my spine. Somewhere there was this girl, locked away in a dungeon, possibly abducted from her family to be tortured on a live stream. I closed all connections, my hands still trembling as I proceeded to shut down my PC and take a walk to get some fresh air. It remains to be one of my most unpleasant memories. I can still hear her scream in my head as I type this sentence. I still have Tor on my computer, but do not use the service anymore. I just figured I was happy without it. 99% of the internet is deep web that you've never explored. That was the line that once again reminded me of the dark web. I had tried to access it about a year before, but couldn't set up the proper connections with Tor on Kali Linux. This time, though, I was determined to get in. I set up Tor, dual booted my PC with Kali Linux so I could wipe the entire OS and switch back to Windows in seconds if anything went wrong. I thought I was safe. I started by accessing a few sites with dark web links, found the dark web wiki, and another site that had even more links. I clicked randomly, just exploring. I stumbled across sites dealing with drugs and other things I couldn't fully understand, so I took a few screenshots. Then I kept clicking. Eventually, I came across a link with a description that read, "Not for people who have a problem with blood and gore." I thought it was just a typical warning, like the ones you see in games like Call of Duty. But I was wrong. What I saw was beyond anything I could have imagined, the dark side of humanity. Warning, the following description is not for minors. If you are one, please skip to the next video. So, here's what I saw. There were videos of people committing suicide, being murdered, and other horrific acts. In one thread, a girl was confessing that she was going to take her own life. There were plenty of comments, but only one said, "Don't do it, please, there's hope." All the others, they were telling her how to do it and making requests for her to leave a video for them to enjoy. There were even videos involving animals, things I can't and won't fully describe. I clicked on a random video, and within 3 seconds, I realized it was a mouse being tortured, ground alive by some machine. I immediately closed it. The comments blew my mind. People were actually encouraging it. I still remember one comment clearly. That thing deserved a much more brutal fate. At that point, I was totally shattered. Seeing a roadkill would normally leave me grieving for the loss of a soul, and here I was, deep in a web full of this kind of horror. But for some reason I clicked another video link. This one. It was of a woman in a room. Her entire face had been ripped off. There was no skin left, just muscle and bone, but she was still alive. 4 people stood around her, watching. I closed the video after 2 seconds, but that image is still burned into my mind. I couldn't sleep that night. I wish I had never clicked on that link. It was beyond bizarre. My heart, mind, and soul were completely shattered by what I saw. I didn't even have the courage to read the comments this time. I immediately shut down Tor, turned off my system, and tried to sleep, but it didn't come. The most horrifying part? I had only accessed a fraction of that thing called dark web, and I was already completely broken. I never want to explore that part of the internet again. Never. I wasn't going to post this, but I need to get it off my chest before I lose my mind. I've been messing around with the dark web for a while now. At first, I didn't go too deep, just skimming the surface. But as I got more addicted, I started venturing deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. I thought it was mostly just illegal stuff and conspiracy theories. I never imagined it would change my life like this. About a week ago, I found this forum filled with cryptic threads. At first glance, it looked like a normal discussion board, but the topics were weirdly specific. They're watching. Do you see them? And your time is close. I was curious and a bit bored, so I clicked on one called They Know You. It only had one post, which listed GPS coordinates. Beneath the coordinates, there was a simple message: find the box. I figured it was some dumb scavenger hunt or an internet prank, so I typed the coordinates into Google Maps. The location was about 10 miles from my house, in the middle of nowhere. No buildings, no roads, just a dense stretch of woods. This is where I should have stopped. But I didn't. I was too curious. Yesterday, in the middle of the day, I decided to drive out there. The sun was shining, it felt safe enough, and I kept telling myself it was nothing, probably just a waste of time. I parked by the side of the road and walked a little way into the woods. Everything seemed completely normal. It was just trees, wind, and silence. That's when I saw it, a box, a small black metal box sitting alone in a clearing. It didn't have any markings or locks, just a handle on top. I hesitated, but eventually I caved and opened it. Inside was a single grainy photo of me, taken that very day when I clicked on that Find the Box link. They must have accessed my laptop camera and taken the photo, but why? I figured it was just some prank, messing with people who actually clicked on these weird links. But why go the extra mile of placing a box with a photo of me in the middle of nowhere, right? I stood there staring at the photo, my mind racing. Then I heard it, someone laughing. A low, distant laugh coming from deeper in the woods. That's when I panicked. I dropped the box and bolted back to my car. I've never felt fear like that before. The drive home is a complete blur. I was trembling, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Then, this morning, things got even worse. I woke up to a notification on my phone. It was a new email. No subject, no sender, just one sentence in the body. Open your PC. Against my better judgment, I did. Everything seemed normal at first, but then the screen flickered, and suddenly I saw a live video feed of me staring at the screen. Then the words, "Hello," appeared in bold letters. Needless to say, I freaked out, shut down the laptop, and decided I was done. I wiped my system clean, reinstalled the OS, and changed all my passwords. Since then, I haven't had any strange emails or creepy encounters. Whatever that was, it really shook me up. I became really curious about the dark web about 2 years ago. After some digging, I figured out how to access it. I downloaded a Tor client on my smartphone and spent about 30 minutes just trying to figure out how to navigate it without getting bombarded by ads and endless pop-ups. The dark web is incredibly hard to explore. There's no Google for it. If a dark site can be found through a dark search engine, then it's probably not that bad, just filled with illegal stuff. Everything on there costs money, though. Apparently, anything truly worth hiding on the dark web comes with a price tag, usually in cryptocurrency. I hadn't had any bitcoins for years, so the only thing I could really access for free was text. So, what rabbit hole did I fall into? Without giving you all of the gory details, I'll tell you this much. I stumbled across a human cookbook, and yes, it was exactly what it sounds like. It was disturbingly well written. No spelling errors, no grammar issues, no filler. It was straight to the point, matter of fact. The contents ranged from how to stalk your victims to which age and gender supposedly tasted better. There were sections on butchering techniques, detailed instructions on how to gather and cook blood, and even advice on hosting a human steak party. And the worst part? There was a chapter on how to keep your victim alive and fresh while consuming a limb a week. It was sickening beyond words. I won't go into any more details, but just reading it left me feeling nauseous and horrified. At the same time, I couldn't help but be morbidly intrigued. I couldn't sleep that night, and for the next few weeks, it haunted me. Every time I was in public, I found myself unable to look at strangers for more than a few seconds before the words from that book came flooding back into my mind. My brain started whispering things like, "She'd be a perfect candidate for a meal," or "Why is she walking alone in this area?" It was terrifying. Like my mind had been tainted by what I had read, and I couldn't shake it. When I was a teenager, I used to mess around on the dark web. It was a curiosity thing, reading forums, checking out what I thought was just underground stuff. I didn't think much of it at the time. You know, the usual. At first, it was mostly low-level weird stuff. People selling stolen credit card info, passwords, hacking software. I even came across this one site where you could pay to download pre-made malicious files. Kinda neat, but also kinda scary, that anyone with a few bucks could get their hands on digital weapons. It felt a bit out of control. Then it got darker. I saw people selling suicide pills, groups discussing some pretty sick stuff, rapists talking openly about their fantasies, and even successes. One thing that really made my skin crawl was this whole bug chasing thing. People whose kink it is to inject random people with HIV. That was, messed up beyond words. And of course there were those infamous red rooms you hear about in internet legends. I personally never came across one, but trust me, there are other gore pages you can stumble upon. Endless amounts of it. And yeah, you could find that kind of stuff on LiveLeak or Reddit if you look hard enough, but this was on another level. There was one video that stuck with me though, probably because of how raw and real it felt. The thing that really messed me up, I'm talking years later, I still think about it, was this woman's channel. I found it when I was in 10th grade and it still haunts me. She had these videos of her dancing with a corpse, like an actual dead body. I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but it was all stiff and decayed, propped up against the wall in her room. She'd put on this weird upbeat music and just dance with it, sing to it. There were a few different videos, some more close-up than others. It wasn't even the kind of creepy where you think it's just some edgy art project or a horror short. No, this felt real. There were only 50 views on the videos when I found them, and the whole channel got taken down about a year later. But it wasn't just the corpse. Her room was a total mess, with strange symbols on the walls, not like pentagrams or anything too obvious, just odd. Her singing was what really got to me. It wasn't spooky or anything, just this upbeat, bouncy love song she was singing to the corpse, like it was her partner or something. She had several videos dancing in different parts of her house, which looked like a pretty normal, low-income American home. The whole thing gave off this eerie vibe of authenticity. Like I wasn't watching some creepypasta story unfold. I was watching a genuinely disturbed person play out something twisted in her own world. It wasn't a horror movie, it wasn't No Sleep, it was just her life. I don't know why, but that stuck with me the most. Maybe it was because it didn't feel staged. It felt like I'd glimpsed into a nightmare someone else was living in. We hope you enjoyed these stories. If you face the darkness yourself, we'd love to hear it. Share your experiences in the comments or reach out directly. Your story deserves a spotlight. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Your support helps us keep the stories flowing.